Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back again. I am Eric with Eric Bets Fights. We're going to try something a little bit different tonight. I decided that in addition to the fight breakdowns, the betting analysis breakdowns that we're going to be doing, we're also going to do some MMA trivia. In addition to being a big MMA nerd, which I've been for most of my life, I'm also a big trivia nerd. I've actually worked in trivia for quite a few years. I own my own trivia company. I also work in a large trivia company doing content. You guys don't care about me. We won't get into that too much, but trivia is something that I'm super into, and MMA is something that I'm super into, and maybe some of you are MMA trivia buffs as well. So I thought that we might put out an MMA trivia video once in a while. I think this would be a fun thing to eventually do as a live game with, as a live stream with people actually streaming, playing along, typing answers in the comments, that kind of thing. But the problem is, in order to do a live stream, you have to have followers first, and obviously I'm super new to this YouTube space, so I don't have followers yet. I have a few. I got a few subscriptions off that first video, so that's pretty cool. But so what we're going to do this first time, and this is going to be a super short video. We're only going to do 5 questions. We might do these live and make them a bit longer in the future, but for now, I'm just going to give you 5 trivia questions. This is the kind of thing where you're just going to play along on your own. If you're watching the video later, feel free to throw your answers in the comments down there, and you're just going to kind of be scoring yourselves and playing along for fun. I do find that when I look to write MMA trivia questions, I tend to go back quite a ways because I've been a fan kind of since the beginning. So the first few, like UFCs 1 through 12, are sort of the ones I've watched a ton of times. And then, of course, you know, in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and all that stuff was going on, I've watched those events a lot. I will try to push myself to write questions about newer stuff too, but I do tend to dig back a little bit. Let's take a look at question number 1. This is a little bit of a newer one. In November 2017, Canadian MMA legend Georges St. Pierre returned from a nearly 4-year layoff and made his middleweight debut after a career spent at welterweight. What UFC Hall of Famer did he submit to win the UFC middleweight title? GSP fought Johnny Hendricks, and then he said, I have to step away for a while, and he did step away. He stepped away for about 4 years. When he finally came back, he took a fight at middleweight, and he won the middleweight title. Who did he submit? And the answer is Michael Bisping. Yes, of course, he came back. He was able to take down Bisping. He was able to take his back, lock in that rear naked choke. If you don't remember that fight, that moment where he locks in that rear naked choke, there's a still picture out there of it where somebody typed something like, you can see Michael Bisping's soul leaving his body. It's a pretty brutal shot. But yeah, it was, if you were a GSP fan, that was a great moment to see when he came back and won the middleweight title, and then immediately gave it up and retired. That's George for you. All right, moving on to question number 2. We're going way back for this one, kind of an obscure one here. Although Royce Gracie won UFCs 1, 2, and 4, he did not win UFC 3. Rather, the winner of UFC 3 was an alternate who took Ken Shamrock's place in the finals when Shamrock pulled out due to injury. What was this fighter's name? I believe he was a police officer from Nebraska, Omaha, I think. He was also a student of Robert Bussey. If you were a martial arts fan in the 80s and 90s, you might remember Robert Bussey Warrior International. They used to advertise in a lot of magazines back then and stuff. But looking for the name of the fighter who won UFC 3. He was an alternate that came in and only fought 1 fight in the finals. If I remember correctly, he defeated Harold Howard. What was that fighter's name? And his name was Steve Jenham. Give yourselves a huge pat on the back if you got that one right. It's kind of an obscure one there, so you got to have a pretty high level of MMA nerddom to remember Steve Jenham. Moving on to question number 3. Speaking of Royce Gracie, he made his long-awaited return to the UFC when he faced and lost to which legendary UFC champion in a welterweight bout at UFC 60 in 2006? So, of course, after those first few UFCs, Royce Gracie kind of disappeared. Fought in Pride a little bit in the early 2000s. Finally made his return to the UFC in 2006, and he fought in the welterweight division. Which legendary UFC champion did he lose to at his UFC return in 2006? And that was none other than Mr. Country Breakfast himself, Matt Hughes. Round of applause for you if you got Matt Hughes there, folks. All right, moving on to question number 4. Another legendary moment in UFC history. After tearing through 6 opponents in under 8 minutes total in smaller promotions, Ronda Rousey made her UFC debut at UFC 157 in 2013, the first women's bout in UFC history. Who was Rousey's opponent? We probably all remember Dana White saying, somebody asked him, when will women fight in the UFC? And he said, never. But then once Ronda Rousey was on the scene in Strikeforce and that sort of thing, then all of a sudden Dana's got dollar signs in his eyes, and suddenly, oh yeah, women will fight in the UFC. So he signs Ronda Rousey. First women's fight in UFC history, UFC 157 in 2013. Who was Ronda Rousey's opponent? Ladies and gentlemen, that was none other than the girl-rilla herself, Liz Carmouche. Other fun facts about Liz Carmouche, I believe she was the first openly gay fighter in UFC history. So Liz Carmouche was a little bit of a trailblazer in that regard. Got to take part in the first women's fight and the first gay fighter in UFC history. And finally, question number 5, folks. Winning the belt at age 23, who is the youngest UFC champion in history, not including tournament champions? Remember, in the early days we had tournament champions. Those aren't technically considered UFC champions, though, and there was one that was younger. So, winning the belt at age 23, who is the youngest UFC champion in history, not including tournament champions? Love him or hate him, folks, that was John Jones. He became a UFC champion at age 23 and 8 months, I believe it was. The reason we had to put that not including tournament champions in there is because Vitor Belfort won, he became a tournament champion, I believe it was UFC 12 at heavyweight, and Vitor was either 19 or 20. Somebody look that up for me and put it in the comments. I can't remember for sure, but Vitor was either 19 or 20 when he made his UFC debut at UFC 12. Oh, another fun fact about that, Joe Rogan also made his UFC debut at UFC 12, not as a fighter, of course, but before Joe Rogan was doing commentary, he did locker room interviews and that kind of thing, is I think what he was doing, kind of behind the scenes interview kind of stuff, and he began that at UFC 12, the same UFC where Vitor made his debut. All right, folks, that's all the questions I've got for you tonight. Go ahead and put your score in the comments down there. Let me know how many questions you got right out of 5. Let me know what you thought about the questions. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter at erikbetsfights. If you've got other types of videos you'd like to see me do, I'm probably going to be doing mostly betting breakdowns, but I do want to do these trivia videos from time to time. I've got a bunch of UFC and MMA trivia questions already collected over the years, and I can obviously write more as well. I know this one was UFC heavy. I will try to branch out a little more in the future. I'll do some Pride questions, WEC, Invicta, you know, all of that sort of thing. But I know, you know, UFC is what people know the best and what's going to draw the most eyes, and that's what we're looking to do here. But thanks again for joining us, folks. I'll try to either post another trivia video or maybe another betting breakdown within the next day or two here. Hope to see you back. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.